On this episode of Star Trek Universe, it is time to strap in for a little brain drain at the Tantalus Penal Colony. Luckily, I'm joined by Effie for the journey. You know, a man can die of loneliness. We're talking Star Trek 111, Dagger of the Mind, right after Doc Adams places in your empty neuralized minds these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome into Star Trek Universe, the show where seasoned Trek vets Matt and myself talk about all of the new Star Trek, and then I drag our impressionable young newcomer into the pit of nerds with Star Trek The Original Series reviews. I am David C. Roberson. I am doing The Dragon of...
I am Effie Ophelders, and that must mean I am the impressionable one.
You are the impressionable young newcomer. How do you like being... being pulled kicking and screaming into this pit of nerds?
Oh, I hadn't realized yet how forceful it was, but now in hindsight, I'm figuring out some things about myself because it's been a fairly enjoyable experience so far.
Well, we met because you were listening to my DC Comics podcast, so I think
I may have been in another pit of nerds already.
Yeah. That pit of nerds is only slightly stickier, depending on who you ask.
Depending on the day, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this time we're talking about Dagger of the Mind, as I mentioned. The Memory Alpha synopsis: a routine visit to the Tantalus Penal Colony proves dangerous for Kirk and an enterprised psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. All right.
Let's get into the prison industrial complex, guys.
Yeah. So, you are the newcomer. I've seen this a million times, or 5.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like ever many times over the years. What do you think? What are your thoughts? High level. Give them to me.
Again, like much more interesting than I thought. There is the standard. Oh, there's some romantic tension like in the middle. Sure, we get there. But up to that point, it's very much like, oh, it's tense again, and we're also delving into the bit of the philosophy behind trying to rehabilitate some members of society in penal colonies. We just have entire fucking planets now dedicated to, let's put them there. Let's see if that's a good place to put our problems. and just it starts off. Like from the get-go, it is like, they're like resorts now. No, a cage is a cage. And I that is interesting to me. That is good stuff. And then getting into the pure horror of just this blank slate of human, like, lack of expression on everyone's face. It is so unsettling, and I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I did.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
I thought they did a really good job with that. This is another one of those episodes where you can just kind of hold up to the Star Trek fans who complain like, no, Gene's vision was that everyone's evolved. I'm like, no, they have penal colonies.
Yeah, it's practically an asylum that is not far off from what you would find last century. So
let's point out that one of the things that Gene was in charge of was this episode. Let's not.
Yep.
But yeah, I prefer my Star Trek with flawed protagonists, as I do with everything.
You're never getting around that. Yeah.
I love this idea that Kirk is so optimistic and he's so hopeful. He does believe that we're better than we ever have been, and these things are getting better.
Humanize this system. It's fine. And then the solution turns out to be yet another scientist aspiring to basically rid humanity of bad emotions, and then deciding his own wants and needs are important and good, and like literally implanting his thoughts onto the rest of them.
Yeah.
By forcing them to experience agony when they remember how they got there. Like, oof.
I do
dark.
Wish this episode had given us a motive for Dr. Adams.
Mayhaps.
That would have
because
been...
he does go from good intentions to pure fucking cruelty very fast.
Yeah, he does.
It is very much like, no, I'm just helping these people, and it's a great idea. And then it's like, no, you will. Oh, the pain gets worse if you don't listen to me. And
Yeah.
there is very much the. I guess he found out this was effective. Yeah.
So one of my favorite, but also least favorite things about this episode is Dr. Helen Noel. One, they've made a point of mentioning in the show, Kirk doesn't necessarily remember everyone on the ship. A lot of people coming and going. He can't remember everybody. It's like 428 people. Experts say you can only keep about, 125 people in your mind at any given time?
Yeah, 150 tops is like your network, and those are mostly acquaintances. Like, you're not remembering everyone. I have this all the time where I'm like, oh shit, I recognize your face. Oh fuck, what's your name? Where do I even know you from? Based on context clues, you might be part of this social group I've been in. Yeah, that tends to be how things go.
So yeah, I dig that, and I'm fine with him not recognizing her name, because in the episode, she was very adamant that he call her Helen. So they met at a Christmas party. She probably said, I'm Helen.
Yeah, exactly.
They evidently talked about the stars and got a little connection going.
As you do.
But, when she keeps, like, insisting that he call her Helen. She keeps, like, trying to bring up stuff in front of Spock. And he's like...
very... Like, I am so with him where it's like, we're in a professional context right now. You're a doctor. You're here to advise me on some doctory shit. Like,
yeah.
You're Dr. Noel. Like, please. I'm not trying to deny that we were chatty at a party, but goodness.
And the way he's like, because he's so like, Kirk is so, at the beginning of the show especially, so adamant that he not show that kind of weakness in front of his crew, and that he not show any kind of unprofessionalism. But like, the way that he cuts her off, he was like, that
is fine. I outrank you. I can ask for your advice. I don't have to take it. Fuck you. It's one of the perks.
Well, hey, with that, I felt like she was getting kind of butthurt, because that's what he will do with everybody. Like, he does that shit with McCoy. Like, McCoy will be like a little angry rabid dog telling him a thing, and he's like, "That's enough, doctor. I made my decision."
Yep. So,
like, to me, there's like the thing I don't like about Dr. Helen Noel is that she's so insistent, and she always has this little like smirk on her face, like, I'll get the best of him. And I'm like, dude, why are you doing this? Like, why? What do you gain from this?
It very much implied a lot happened that night, but it didn't. So it is very much that. Oh, I'm gonna. It implies that she thinks there are so many feelings for her that turn out not to be there because they have to be implanted, for fuck's sake. So it's.
And why would she go there? Why would she like?
Yeah,
that's messed up, man.
It's weird, and like even at the earlier on with just like her insisting he calls her Helen, fine. But then to reiterate that point to some stranger that they've just met and being like, oh, please, you call me Helen because he won't do it. Like, what are we doing here? What kind of fucking, like, public portrayal of our marital problems indoors are we just... What is this?
Yeah.
It's a weird kind of immaturity, and then she's just very naive for most of the episode, where it's like, no, but he's such a great scientist, and he's got a great image, so he must be well-intentioned, and I'm not creeped out in the slightest by all of this shit.
Yeah. I like
Turns out doctors are not trained in ethics, as usual.
One of my favorite parts of their relationship, though, is even after he's been brainwashed into thinking he loves her, there's a part of him that keeps fighting back. And he's like, yep, you're going to have to get in that air conditioning vent. And I'm like,
I'm putting you in a stuck now. Yeah.
And he's like, do you know anything about, rerouting the electrodes or whatever? She's like, no. And he's like, cool.
Don't touch the ones that kill you.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, if you do it wrong, you're going to die. All right, get in there. Just like,
I was like, this is not an explanation of anything. Just try it and see. That's a very precarious mission.
I can hear him in his head going like, I'll fix her. It's like, no more issues.
My survival depends on you guessing right which cable does what.
I mean, he was right that they would come for him before her. Because,
sure.
But
which is also like a millisecond after she's disappeared into the vent. But
yeah, of course, because TV timing. But
yeah, gotta keep it going.
I don't know, the way he like cuts her off though in the transporter room. I could literally like hear Dave Chappelle yelling, "Bitch, be cool!"
Don't.
He's like, "This is Spock's." And what's funny is I have seen a lot of Kirk and Spock shippers point that moment out as like Kirk is like, dude, my boyfriend's here, and I'm like, y'all, come on, y'all. That was not what they were implying. That was a reach.
No, it was the fucking 60s. But on to better characters.
But wait,
I'm sorry,
but I also liked their chemistry weirdly. So like,
yeah, it worked out, and like once we got to that switch of her clearly not being okay with him being attracted, like against his will,
yeah,
like that was cool. Like that was very clearly her insisting, like, okay, no, I like you, but not when you're forced into this brain state of adoring me like you've loved me for centuries. Like it's
yeah. So
that sort of salvaged her character at that point. Yeah,
but she was like, there was a part of her character that annoyed me, but then also like they actually did have really good chemistry, and I would have loved to have seen her show up again, in a recurring role or for the rest of the time that they were there. As always, a kind of romantic interest, but our professions are getting in the way kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. Could have been interesting, but there's just none of that. There's just Woman of the Week, and that's kind of sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we got another brunette that looks vaguely similar because they're all very attractive, and yeah.
I also...
I am getting, like, it does still slightly tickle my funny bone when, like, how forcefully he kisses. It is just a fucking smack dab. Like, it's almost a headbutt at this point.
It is. And we didn't talk about this in the last episode for Dagger of the Mind, but Sherry Jackson said that when Shatner kissed her, he really kissed her. And when she pulls back from him, you could see her lips are swollen. And
oh no.
Yeah.
Oh God. So Shatner is just a poor kisser, is what we figured out.
Probably,
Jesus.
Yeah. She seemed like she was into it the way she was talking about it. She was like, he was just his handsome self, charming self. And I'm like, oh, really?
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, well. To each their own.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Good.
And, after his comment with Spock being like, you tell McCoy she better be the best damn assistant I've ever had. I like to think like all of her like kind of like initially saying like, nah, it's fine. And then turning around and like putting that shit in his head. I like to think he went back to the Enterprise and said she was completely unprofessional as she put some weird shit in my head. And you're
thoroughly fucked up.
Get her the hell off of this ship.
Also very possible.
Yeah, that's what I like to think happened.
As I get that. Yeah.
The other part of that, though, is that, like, apparently they don't ever really have need for a psychiatrist. Because he was like, I don't know, do you have a psychiatrist in one of your doctors? People
is there one left or something? One of them must be, trained in this shit.
What did you think of Spock saying, you Earth people glorify organized violence for 40 centuries, but you imprison those who employ it privately?
Oh, delightful. Yeah, we should probably, I mean, well, we don't detain nearly enough domestic abusers, but we also, there's also too few consequences for war crimes. So I feel like we're pretty consistently bad with actually having consequences for violence, but sure, it's a good line.
And I love that McCoy was like, oh, I suppose you have a better solution. And he's like, where there is no emotion.
We don't do it.
Where there is no emotion, there is no motive for violence. Like, okay, well, that's not...
It's not the best solution for us, but...
it's not a realistic solution for anyone.
Not quite. No, we just did away with it, where I'm like, okay, that's an interesting thing to just do planet-wide. Well done. Oh.
My favorite... quote of this episode is from Van Gelder to Kirk. He says, you smart button-pushing brass hat. Wash your hands of it. Is that your system?
Yeah, but like, that man is making points. And
yes!
That was who I was definitely trying to segue to when I said better characters. Like, his performance is intense. And I loved it. It's great. It is unsettling, and it's like clearly trying to warn everyone, and there is like, it starts off as like, oh no, we've got an escaped murderer, and then it turns out no, he's not, and that's great. It just works very well, and I feel for the man, and the tension of cutting back and forth between finding the neural neutralizer and hearing about the neural neutralizer and being like, oh shit, this ain't good. It's just works really well. I thought it was just tightly written, nicely done. Yeah, there's just also the Helen Noel tension in between, but the whole mind melt thing with Spock, great stuff.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, very very creepy, but very very well acted, just on all parts, and the ancient technique. Yeah. I feel like I've heard that term before, but also it wasn't said in this episode yet. Am I correct in that? Yeah, no, exactly.
What?
Okay.
Which part? The ancient technique
the Vulcan
part?
mind meld.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't done a mind meld.
What does he call it?
The mind meld. The Vulcan mind meld.
He calls it that in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure anymore.
I think so.
Oh,
I think so. But that's what it is.
I don't know.
Whether they did or not.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. Exactly. Yeah. I just wasn't sure if that was something they came up with later.
And it's funny, is one in this episode, he's like, it is an ancient technique and we keep it to ourselves and we don't talk about it. But then, like, after they...
we don't know if it works on humans.
Well, they do, but it's one of those things where it's funny that, like, he's like, we don't do this very often. And then, like, after he does it, it's just like the door's open and it's like, well,
yeah,
I don't know what we're
doing it every week. Yeah.
And then, like,
that's mind meld, baby.
Several episodes from now, you will see him, like, almost, like, do a mind melt through a rock and, like, and get like a guard on the outside of a prison cell. And you're like, what the hell is happening now?
Oh, great. Yeah, because it sounds like, oh, this is a private thing like we do with our loved ones, and that's it,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's intriguing in and of itself, but then to have it like, oh no, he has a new superpower. We're doing, like, he has the pinch, and he has the mind melty thing. Let's do this. It can ride us out of any corner. It's good. Let's use it.
And they introduced both in the same episode pretty much, I think, but...
no, maybe we've had a neck pinch before, right?
Did he do the neck pinch before? I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I couldn't name the episode, but I've seen it before. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why it wasn't explained this time. Because last time they had like a short line of like, you got to teach me that sometime.
Oh yeah. You're right.
I don't remember when it was, but it's happened before.
Yeah. You're right.
I am right. I outsmarted a veteran Star Trek fan
who remembers
by
nothing.
Having seen shit recently. I guess that is my one advantage.
I've seen shit.
You've also seen it recently. Yeah, you've watched it along with me, but yeah, still.
But you know what's funny is like when you've seen something a lot of times, maybe you don't pay as much attention.
That might be the issue there. Yeah. I'm actually paying attention to this shit because I have never seen it before.
Yeah. Yeah, I really thought the guy that played Van Gelder was good. One of my pullbacks on the episode is that after the mind meld, we never see him again. We just find out he's in charge of.
You get the real quick wrap up of like, oh, he's better and he's down there and he's fixing shit. Leave it to him.
Yep.
Yeah. It's been destroyed. He's great. Yeah.
So, by the way, I was not going to talk about this immediately, but
But I guess you are.
yeah, there is a shipping label that you see for a brief second on an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine that shows that a now quite elderly Dr. Van Gelder is still in charge of the Tantalus Penal Colony.
Amazing.
Like 100 years later, he's still there.
Good fucking reference, but also that man is old. I'm glad they lived that long, I guess.
Oh yeah, they do. They totally do. Like because they were producing 23rd century stuff at the same time as 24th century stuff, like back to back. They were like they would have like the movies working on the like the studio over from where they're shooting Next Gen. So, they could bring in like little bitty cameos and stuff and
some crossover shit. Fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
We'll get there. I'm waiting. I'm still waiting. There's so much goodness yet to happen.
You have to earn it.
I know. I'm earning it. I just express my impatience.
A friend of mine I was talking to last night, and he was like, yeah, I've pretty much just decided, like, I want to watch Star Trek Picard, and I've never seen any of the other stuff, so I'm just going to read up on the Wikipedia. And I'm like,
well, how much are you going to read?
What? He's like, I'm just going to find out what I need to... There are lists of, like, what I need to watch, and I'll just read a synopsis of those things. And I was like, oh, my God. That is not the... It won't mean anything to you. That's the problem.
No, exactly. You have zero emotional impact from reading the plot synopsis.
I was like, especially
it's
like...
not compelling.
I was like, especially like with Picard season 3, like that is like a huge fan service season. That is like culmination of many, many years of us wanting a freaking ending to Next Gen.
Lots of callbacks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Like, at least watch Next Gen at that point.
And like the 4 movies. That's what I was telling him. I was like, just watch.
Apparently useful. Yeah.
Just, Christ's sake, just watch Next Gen and Star Trek Nemesis and First Contact. Like, don't just skip Insurrection, but don't just skip it all.
Yeah. Also, why would you want to skip? I mean, I get the appeal of, like, I was tempted by Picard purely because, well, it's the Sir. Like, we like it's Patrick Stewart doing the thing. I mean, I was sold, but I was also like, I don't know shit about this world. I should not just jump into Picard.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of Picard stuff.
And then I, started a fucking podcast, I guess. As you do when you want to get through a lot of content eventually.
Yeah.
You just double up and make it like take twice as long because you have to discuss every hour-long episode for another hour, and that way, you get to Picard slower. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've made some life decisions that don't make sense now. But I'm enjoying myself, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, we'll live.
I mean, if you really wanted to, we could probably do like an episode of the original series and an episode of TNG a week instead of doing 2 episodes of the...
Yeah, but wouldn't that get confusing then?
Yes.
Exactly. Like, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy yet.
It's also a cheat. It's the total cheat.
It is. I can't bring myself to do that. I have to sit through like at least all of the shitty episodes as well. That's how this works.
I mean, there's plenty for all of them, but
yeah, exactly.
Oh, right.
But even those are pretty fun. Like the sillier ones are still like, oh, this is kind of camp and kind of 60s, and like I'm enjoying it. And then there's the deeper stuff where I'm like, oh, let's think about the penal system, right?
Yeah.
And I enjoy that a whole lot more, but it's in a different way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So here's an interesting tidbit. The part of Helen Noel was originally written for Grace Lee Whitney's character Janice Rand.
Uh-huh. But then we decided she was... Oh, okay.
Producers...
Like, it could have worked. She just had zero experience relevant to the operation. But
yeah. And producers wanted... This is great. Producers wanted to avoid showing Kirk becoming involved with her, and Whitney was already on the verge of leaving the show due to personal problems on the set.
Yeah, we've heard that, right?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about that. No, check this out. This is really great. Yes, this is the first appearance of the Vulcan mind meld. According to the making of Star Trek, the mind meld was developed as an alternative to the script's use of hypnosis to stabilize Van Gelder. They did not want to inaccurately depict hypnosis as a medical technique, nor did they want to shoehorn into the script a pretext that Spock was qualified to act as a hypnotist in a medical capacity. Lastly, and this is my favorite thing, lastly, they did not want to risk accidentally hypnotizing viewers at home.
That's great. That's great. Because there was that explicit line of, it's not like hypnosis. You're fine, Dr. McCoy. Like, which was just delightful. Like, I wasn't worried about that, but sure. Good to know. This was scary shit back then.
And my favorite thing about this is that they go out of their way to point out, like, this is not hypnosis. You will not be harmed. You will not be affected. This is only between me and him.
Yeah, I'm just touching this guy.
However, what they do is introduce a neuralizer that freaking, apparently if you look at it, it empties your mind, and they keep doing freaking close-ups of it, like spitting.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
So they think that the viewers are going to be hypnotized by the suggestion that they're using hypnotism, but they're not going...
by the actual ray of fucking sci-fi beams that hypnotize you. Oh my god. That's good. That's good. Oh, yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. I do like just the concept of, like, the way he describes it during the mind melt. Fucking creepy. And then it gets to the conclusion where it's like, oh yeah, no one was suggesting anything to him. He just had nothing left inside his mind. That's a fucking scary death. Very fitting.
And
God, that's like a great idea again. Like, I love those tidbits.
It's a fantastic thing, and it's another instance of an episode that ends on, like, a really poignant note with them on the bridge, and McCoy says, it's hard to believe that a man could die of loneliness. And Kirk just says, not when you've sat in that room.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God.
That's dark. Honey's traumatized again.
And he looks traumatized. Like, he comes onto, he does a really good job of this. When he comes onto the bridge right before that line, he looks blank, like Lethe.
Yeah, he's shaken still. Yeah.
He looks a little blank, and then, like, he keeps, like, kind of
not okay
coming out of it, but he's looking, like, despondent.
Yeah. Yeah, like, he really puts on that smirk and that face again on occasion where it's, like, appropriate, but then when he like gives the order to Spock to just signal I'm okay, but we know he's not, and that's just good shit. Yeah,
I really love that. That was a really great touch.
Yeah, and it makes total sense as well, because you can die of loneliness. We know that it happens all the fucking time.
Yeah.
My wife, people who like lose their partners and shit, and like lack of touch, even as an infant, like that will fuck you up forever.
My wife went out of town today, and I almost did.
Yeah. Like, I'm glad you survived long enough so I could, keep you in digital touch for this conversation.
Yeah. Well, we were actually chatting on WhatsApp most of the day, so
good. Thank goodness.
Yeah. I get
glad
weird.
I introduced you to WhatsApp.
Yeah. I mean, I knew about it, but I was like, I don't know anyone on that. And then you were like, I'm on WhatsApp now. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
Damn it.
Got to download another thing.
I deleted a bunch of stuff, and at that point it was like, yeah, that's what everyone here uses. So I don't know about your iMessage country, but I don't know.
So according to, well, not even according to Memory Alpha, but they say it, so that's what I'm going to say. The title of this episode is taken from a line of Shakespeare's play Macbeth. This is the first of a great many episodes in the franchise to take its title from a quotation from Shakespeare. In the context of this quotation, Macbeth is preparing to murder Duncan, the King of Scotland, and sees a dagger that he attempts to grasp, only to discover it is a figment of his imagination. The relevant passage from the soliloquy reads, "Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle toward my hand.
Where is this? I want to read it now." Jesus.
Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation, proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain? And the name Lethe...
sure that was beautiful in some portrayals of Macbeth. I feel very bad now, because now I know there's a lot of episodes that are going to take titles from Shakespeare, and I'm going to lose all credibility of having studied English lit, because I will not recognize any of it.
Well, that's okay, because the name Lethe is a reference to the river of forgetfulness in Greek mythology.
That I did recognize, because I have had classical education in high school, so... And I did recognize that immediately. I was not quite sure why it was relevant, but, she was empty. She was forgotten. There was no person left in there. Like, that immediately should have been a red flag to Helen Noel, where it's like, she is just such... There's just such creepiness even in Lethe's statements that are very succinct, but also just...
devoid.
Devoid of anything. There's nothing in there where you're like, no, that person is dead. Where you're like, okay, are you okay? This seems like poor ways of dealing with trauma. Like, no, we're forgetting about the past. We're pushing it away. It doesn't matter anymore. Like, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I
love it.
Isn't part of life having to live with your mistakes and shit? But okay, well, whatever.
Yeah. There's a line from Star Trek that I always love that Shatner delivers, and I love the way he delivers it, even if it's hammy as shit. Where he says something like, "Damn it, Bones, you're a doctor. You know that pain can't be taken away with the wave of a magic wand." It's part of part of what makes us who we are.
Yeah, that's fair.
The name of the colony, Tantalus, is also a reference to Greek mythology. Tantalus was a former king imprisoned in Tartarus for various evil deeds. Tantalus was forever chin deep in water, and fruit-laden branches hung within easy reach. But when he tried to eat or drink the fruit, and the water receded from him, so that he could not.
Yep. I am familiar with the story, but it is a very obvious one where it's like, oh, that guy, right? Mm-hmm. I am curious, like, how does that relate to the concept they used for the penal colony, I guess, because it is very much that trying to reach that hunger, that thirst, that not getting what you need, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe I'd have to think on that for a bit.
Oh, well, to me, because whenever they try to remember, they have pain. So the memory is always just out of reach.
Out of reach, you can right? See it. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I like that.
This episode is mentioned as taking place after a Christmas party in the science labs. This is one of the few times a religious holiday is mentioned in the Star Trek future, and Christmas in particular was not mentioned again until Star Trek Generations, which came out in 1994. In case you were wondering.
Yeah, that's good. That's good context to have. Yeah. Okay, so Christmas exists, but only sometimes.
They don't bring it up a lot.
No. There's annual Christmas parties, but we don't get to see any of them.
Yeah, and Charlie X, of course, referenced Thanksgiving, and Cat's Paw.
I forgot about that.
Cat's Paw, which you have not seen yet, references Halloween.
Mm-hmm. It's the season.
I know. That's it, man.
I have no costume this year. I have no plans as well. Oh.
Dude, I haven't had one of those in, God, I don't even know how old I was. 14? 13? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, you've seen me in cosplay. Like, I've had some Halloween parties over the past years but I don't have a Halloween party this year, I don't think. It sucks. I had plans already on the one night that I could have gone to one, but I didn't have a costume, so I was like, I'm sticking to the original plans.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's a good decision. Don't regret it. It was a nice night.
If you wind up not enjoying it, you could always have someone implant some memories.
That's true. Of a different night where I just drag someone into my cabin and make furious love to them, apparently, even though that never happened. Yeah.
Yep.
We didn't get to see the furious lovemaking, but I think that was implied.
Well, the memory of it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. He remembers.
I want to see like the scene where he's like, I keep thinking my dick is way bigger, and then I like look and it's not, and I think this may have been part of that implanted memory that Dr. Helen
Noel described my dick to me in that room.
She said it was
just writing erotic fiction from the top of her mind. Oh God, that's horrible. Oh.
She referred to my dick as a dagger of the hind.
No. Oh, that's. I love that, but God, that's bad. I hate it, but I'm so thankful I know you, so you can make these fucking puns. Jesus.
And he's like, no, it'll be a dagger from behind.
This is a huge peak on the recording. Jesus.
Uh-huh.
I know where I laughed. That's for sure.
I almost said,
oh goodness.
I almost said dagger of the gine, but then I decided not to.
That's worse. but the hind worked well. I'm never forgetting that now. In future episodes, we will refer to Kirk's penis as his dagger of the hind.
Dagger of the hind. I'll remember that, Mr. Spock, the next time I find myself in a similar situation.
Indeed. And that's how the Kirk Spock shippers were brought into existence, I guess.
I mean,
there were other things, but
yes, there were some. Let's just say Shatner's very flirtatious. He seems like he's flirting with everybody.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
He's like always doing that little smirk.
I do like the two together. There is clearly a bond there, so I get it. But back in the day, especially, you're looking for subtext because you're sure as shit not getting gay full text.
But then like little ththings like in Star Trek V when Kirk refers to him as a brother, and you kind of go,
"Aw,
yeah, this is
that what you?" Yeah,
I don't think he would have done that if he.
No.
Ugh. Sucking his dick.
I love you like a brother. Now stick it up my hind, your dagger. Anyway, it's not quite. No.
Listen, Kirk was from Iowa, not Alabama.
I'm trying not to kink shame, but sorry, the Alabama. Was I doing an accent? I have
no. I'm saying like he's not into incest. He was
brotherly love. Yeah, no, I get it.
He was from Iowa, not Alabama.
Took me a second. Right.
I'm from Alabama, and I'm not into that. So you can
say it, yeah.
So you know what? Maybe I'll say, maybe he was from Iowa, not from Mississippi.
Fair enough.
Because they're like the one state that's like below us on the education system and everything. So.
Right, yeah.
Like they're even
down in every sense of the word.
Like they're the one state we can actually punch down to. So.
You don't have a lot of options. That is fair.
No,
I don't know enough about Mississippi except that there's a river, and how many S's are in there. But that's really the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah, I mean it's that old Family Guy bit where it's like, keep rowing, I hear banjos. Okay, we're done. I think I'm calling it on this episode.
Yeah, probably.
Are you good with that?
Perfectly fine.
I'm okay good with that.
I greatly enjoyed myself. Once again, a good episode makes for a shorter review, so.
It kind of does. Unless it's just like so.
Unless there's so much
amazing
you want to gush about. Yeah, right. But just solid shit. Like that's just like, oh yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that slightly less. This was good. I had a good time. And that's what we're here for. A good time and a long time because, God, there's a lot of episodes left.
Yes. But you know what? I mean, this is episode 11 out of 80.
Right. And then, another 700. But
stop bringing those up. We're talking. We're doing the original series.
I want to get to movies and.
Well, here's the thing though. After this, we've got the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll get to the movies. And the animated series is very short, but like the
Okay,
movies,
thank goodness, because I was like, oh, animated.
it's like
might be.
It's like 22 half-hour episodes. It's
Okay. We can do 2 at a time for those. That's fine.
Yeah, but you know, those movies cover like, I don't know, from 77 to 91, or from 1979 to 91. Yeah. So it's like, that's a big chunk of decades.
Absolutely.
Like, where they're not making like hourly shows. I mean,
at that rate, we'll end up closer to the millennium than you'd expect, given that we started in the 60s.
I mean, it evens out. I mean, because it's really like, you'll have movies. It's starting around 86. You'll have a movie, and then next gen's in production. So, and coming out. So you're gonna have, you know,
some shit like
79 to 86, where it's just movies. But then it evens out and more, and you know, and then some, because you're going to wind up with like TNG and Deep Space Nine is in production, and the Deep Space Nine and Voyager is in production.
Yeah, I'm going to leave the production order thing to you. Like, deliver me a watch order and I'll get to it. But Christ,
I'm gonna go the simplest route.
Good. I like that.
Where it's like,
trying not to intertwine too much shit.
Be aware that at some point, like, this is happening at the same time as another series, so we're going to backtrack after this show, and you're going to see
this is a reference to something you will see but would have seen at the time, but yeah.
There aren't that many of those. Like, a lot of it's just standalone.
Fair. Thank goodness.
Yeah, so, I mean, it all kind of works together, but...
Right.
So,
anyways, we were done. Thanks for this production meeting on air. Yeah.
I know. I hate when other people do that. I hate when other people do that, but then like I'm not editing that out.
No. Why do we need to? It's a teaser for what's to come in the future. You know, listeners will care, I guess.
Yeah. So, folks, listeners, if you want to leave feedback for the episodes we are about to watch. The next episode we do after this one is going to be Miri, and we're also going to do The Conscience of the King. So those are the next 2 on our list. So if you're trying to keep up with us, get those underway. And if you have comments about anything we said on the previous episodes, write in StarTrekUcast@gmail.com, and you may find your feedback on the air, on an episode.
Who knows?
Of Star Trek UCast.
The chances are pretty good, really.
Yeah, because like nobody's writing in for this version of the show.
Exactly. Just as long as you don't cuss us out, like we're good.
Actually, I'm okay with you do.
We're probably we'll still read it. We'll just make fun of you, but you know, we're good.
Matt and I really enjoy it when people get mad at us and cuss us out. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Until next time, Joe on true, live long and prosper. And of course,
eat a dagger of the hind.
Well played.
You're welcome. I did it.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.